Please join me in welcoming enterprise architect Chris Williams to the show. Chris, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me on. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you.
Chris, I feel like I'm in the presence of I don't know. This is awesome having you on the show. You're so well known, not only in the DevOps community, vBrownbag, so many things, social media, and your personality speaks volume in words. So I don't know. I'm like starstruck to have you on the show.
I love to irritate people on several different platforms. I just insinuate myself into a process and then just bug the heck out of people until they tell me to get the hell out of there.
And then you move on to the next one.
Then I move on to the next one. I figure I'm going to start doing a TikTok now. I don't know. Maybe I'll start dancing.
Talk to me about that, because
no, absolutely not. I will not do a TikTok on dancing.
do not say not, because wait a second, I'm not going to spoil it. You know, you're going to be at reInvent. I might have to put you on the spot to do it, and I think that might be a good opportunity.
I'll have to work on my floss. That's what the kids are doing now, right? It's the floss. Yeah. Okay.
Wow, that's like so 2021, man.
Dude, I'm so old now. But thanks for having me on, John.
Yeah.
My first and last time.
Oh, shit, what are we talking about today? Oh, yeah, that's right. No, just kidding. Okay, so we're talking with Chris, not only his backstory, how he got into what he's doing now and all the other stuff he's done, including vBrownbag, but I want to talk about DevOps, but let's get a little insight onto who Chris is and how he got into everything. Well, I don't know if we have enough time for everything, but the basics.
I'll keep it short and succinct. So I started off as many people in the IT industry do, playing video games. Super enjoyed playing Doom. Liked networking it up with my friends. Somebody said, "Hey, you're kind of good at this networking thing," and so a local university hired me to rewire their CIS department. And then I stopped studying for my pre-med. I was originally pre-med, and I stopped doing that. Got my CCNA, then I got my MCSE, then I got my VCP, and then I naturally segued over into the social stuff because I liked being sociable. I liked the community aspects. And things just kind of snowballed. I became a VMware vExpert, and then I became an AWS Hero. I've been running user groups for quite some time. The good folks over at vBrownbag asked me to join up and help them out several years ago now, and so I've been running the US channel and helping out there for, I want to say, the past 7 years. It's been going on for 13 years, but I've been involved with them for about the past 7 years. And professionally, I am currently an enterprise architect working over at WWT, Worldwide Technology. I've been a cloud engineer. I mean, all the way from desktop support to sysadmin to data center migrator to cloud engineer, and then cloud architect, and now enterprise architect, concentrating on AWS, of course.
Chris, Doom. Oh my God. That just brings back a nostalgia of booting it up into disk and then playing. Oh, I just want to go back to that time and play a little bit. I mean, old school style. All right. A little nostalgia. Sorry, the attention. I've just noticed something, a trend. A lot of folks that I've just had on my podcast have more of a pre-med or medical background or bioengineering, and now they're into tech. How does that happen? I mean, tech more interesting than that, or just easier, or what?
So I went down the path of pre-med. So my family is Greek. So of course the standard Mediterranean edict is you shall either become a doctor or a lawyer, and so doctor was kind of picked for me. But you know, I enjoy medical processes. Neurology is fascinating, pharmacology is fascinating to me, and everything like that. So as I got into it, as I got into my studies, I was in gross anatomy, and I saw my first cadaver, and I was like, nope, I'm out. Check, check, please. I'm done. And I was like, you know what? If I work on a human, and they blue screen, that's it. But if I work on a machine and it blue screens, I can recover from that. So I cashed my chips in on the pre-med thing, and I actually did get a degree in psychology. That was the fastest way that I could get out of university with a degree and just get the heck out of there, and then proceeded with my IT career. But I think it was good to realize what I didn't want to do, and that was how I came to my calling.
Isn't blue screening the same, like on a person, the same as a computer? Just reboot, right? Clear. No, I'm just
Yeah, and sometimes it works, but more often I don't know.
you can't reinstall that OS. All right.
No. There's no reset button. There's no take the battery out and reset the BIOS chip. So that's going way back. That's 46 time right there. Wow, I am old.
So you got a degree in psychology? I guess I got to be careful what I say or what you're. No.
I use that degree, especially now at the enterprise architect level. I am using that degree far more often than I'm spending, actually doing hard skills like genuine keyboard time versus talking to people in a boardroom setting, or trying to convince somebody to do something when it's in their best interest, but they're being recalcitrant. That psych degree comes in really, really handy. Listening skills and communication and validation and all of the hallmarks of being a good psychologist are very necessary for being a good enterprise architect as well.
It would be great for a salesperson. When I'm hiring, I might have to look into you. I mean, like, how can we get this person to do something? No, I'm just kidding.
I just talked my boss into letting me change my title to cloud therapist for here at Worldwide. So I'm in the process of getting my title changed on my signatures and everything. Chris Williams, cloud therapist.
And that's pretty good. You just talked him into it. It's in everybody's best interest if I change it, because think of how personal it comes across as I'm talking to them about their architecture. No, they're not laying on a couch, but I am engaging with them, and they're just telling me all their problems, and how I'm just helping them understand them.
I did give him a bullet pointed email saying why it would be a good idea to change it, and he was like, approved.
Oh, I love it. Okay, Chris, how'd you get into DevOps? Because I want to talk about vBrownbag, and then we also have to bring up, what is it called? vTug? We have to...
the virtualization technology user group. It is now defunct, but yes, the vTug is an old. We ended that in 2019. We can get to that though. Okay, where do you want to start, John?
Man, I got so many places I want to start. All right, let's just jump to DevOps and then talk about vBrownbag, and you can lead into it, or we'll just get to it whenever we get.
Yeah, totally. So DevOps is a natural progression or natural evolution of anybody that spends time in IT. If anybody that spends time in tech, either on the dev side or on the operation side. I came from the operation side. I was a sysadmin, and then I was into data migrations and stuff, but it was always the non-developer stuff. But even back then, I understood the need to know something about the code, to understand how things are, communication patterns, what things could be modified, what things couldn't be modified, things of that nature. So even before we had a word for it, the DevOps, there's this draw to the middle. So as a naturally inquisitive person, I would build a system, and then some guy would come along and throw code onto it and just immediately break it. And I'm like, how did you break this? I built this to be as resilient as humanly possible. And then I would get into asking code questions to them and start, delving into tracing and patterns and stuff like that. And that's how my process. So I'm currently actually doing a year of Python on the vBrownbag as well, because I became so interested in it. And we're doing Kubernetes, and we're doing a series on Git as well. So there's this natural draw, if you are an ops person, to understand how the code works. And commensurately, there is a natural draw on the developer side to understand how the infrastructure that has been laid down for them, how that operates, how it's connected together, how those things interrelate and interact with each other, and how not to break it. So for me, it was a natural progression. And learning how to create pipelines, learning how to ask the right questions of the developers and of the product teams and everything. That goes back to my psychology days of just asking the why, getting into like, well, why do we have to do it this way? Why can't we do it that way? And in addition to all of that, my boss wants me to get my AWS DevOps professional certification. So I have the other 4 certifications, and he was like, "Well, you got the other 4. You just go ahead and get DevOps now too." And I was like, "Okay, sure, let's do it." And that's how I got drugged, not kicking and screaming, but naturally into the DevOps landscape. Excuse me.
DevOps, is it an actual role or a culture shift, or an understanding of your responsibilities?
It's the latter two. It's an understanding of your responsibilities. It's a cultural shift. There are companies that create DevOps teams, but I think it's more just an understanding of, I mean, because you can say that you have a DevOps team, but whether or not they're actually doing the tasks of a DevOps team it can vary from company to company. And I get exposed to a lot of different companies nowadays. So when somebody shows me that an ops team that's running, CI/CD pipelines and enabling their developers to, push to production 5 times a day, I'm like, that you say ops, but that's DevOps. Or you have a DevOps team that is, a human bottleneck, and the developers have to put in Jira tickets to even get something moved into dev or to change the system variable, then you're not really subscribing to the ethos, even though you have the proper title for it. So I would say it's the latter two.
Is DevOps a methodology, or is it actually like a person? So here's what I envision, and here's what I think about operations. I've been in operations, did it for years. I was on the developer side just to understand it. Like you, I was picking apart on why they did a certain action and it impacted the system, the underlying, and I had to support both. But you envision like, here's operations and here's the developers. Now, did they become one and the same, or do they work together where they understand where the developers being able to handle the operations at the same time and own it? Is it, I still think of them as separate folks, because what happens is you have old traditional methods where there's silos, right? You have your operations, and then you have the person who's responsible, the business application part. But should they be the same, or is it just a collaboration between the two?
It depends on the size of the organization. It depends on what they're ready for from an evolutionary perspective. It can be a number of things. Yes, it can be one in the same group. I've also seen it where it's been 2 separate groups, but on a per service basis. So like, say your dev team has 10 different services that they take care of. There are 2, 3, 4 people within the ops team that are tagged for that service. And so a couple of ops people are a member of that 2 pizza team. And I'm saying 2 pizza team, and I'm kind of expecting the listeners to understand what that means. Is that a valid assessment, or should I get into that?
Well, why don't you jump into the 2 pizza team and the understanding, and then we'll talk about more of it back into the DevOps structure. 2 pizza team, is it just an Amazonian term, like an Amazon, or is it a developer term? Like, I always hear it from both.
I don't know where it started, but I like the analogy. It's the number of people that can be fed by 2 pizzas is the theoretically the largest number of folks that you want to have dedicated to addressing a service or fixing a problem. If it gets larger than that, then it becomes too cumbersome because of the additional political brain shift that has to happen in a larger group. And if it's too small, then they're not getting enough brains looking at the problem to have a good gestalt of ideas. So I like the phrase. I have no idea where it came from. But yeah, so I like that concept of having, enough people on the ops team dedicated to the developers on a per service basis, depending upon the number of services, to be a functional conduit into that ops layer. Some organizations, smaller organizations, they've only got like one or two services. So the ops folks and the dev folks, they're already immediately a two pizza team. And some of the larger organizations, you've got to figure out, what's the best mix for them. And it's always bespoke. It's always, specific to that particular organization's structure, hierarchy, political fence making, et cetera, et cetera.
You had a director of DevOps role. You want to jump into what that's like and how you handle that, or what was the engagement and what were you trying to achieve?
Now for a quick interruption. A huge shout out to our friends at Veeam for sponsoring this episode. Veeam Backup for AWS can easily protect all of your Amazon EC2, RDS, and VPC data. Wait a second, they can protect my VPC data too? Yep, that's right. Simplify AWS backup and recovery while ensuring security and compliance. All right, now back to our episode.
Oh yeah, sure. So I can't name the company, obviously, but it was a company that was trying to get a product out to market, and they had been running into a couple of challenges. Specifically, what I was talking about, the ops team, the DevOps team they didn't have the best guidance in terms of understanding what the process was, the process expectations from a higher level. So for example, here the higher ups, they said they wanted to be like Netflix, and then the middle management folks, they were saying, right, but we're only going to push to prod once every 2 months. And I'm like, okay, well, there's a miss there. That's two entirely different things. One person wanted like a waterfall deployment, and other folks were saying we want to be like Netflix. And so my job as the cloud therapist was trying to figure out how we were going to cross that bridge, and we did. We figured it out. We got some different mindsets, asking some gentle questions, doing a little bit of probing, trying to figure out, okay, well, if the boss wants this and you're trying to push this, how do we think that's going to shake out? And okay, well, let's try it a new way. And so we brought in some new folks, and we were able to get both the developers' CI/CD pipeline stood up and established, and getting pushing to their relevant containers, and then the DevOps folks were then picking up those containers and pushing them through an automated, fully testable environment that allowed them to push into the lower level environments. By the time that I had left, they still hadn't gotten so at Netflix, developers have full access to production. They can push to prod whenever they want to. There's a lot of power in that, but that speaks to the fact that Netflix trusts their automation so well that if they try to push something, there is rigorous testing that's going to happen to that thing in staging, in QA, in performance before it even gets to production, so that there's very little chance that somebody's going to be able to push bad code and it's going to go all the way to prod. And that was the path where we set this customer on as well. To good success. They did go GA. The application was pushed out, and it's actually on my phone right now, and I'm using it to do things.
I love the vagueness. That's all right. We can't give away some of the information. Do you find it really difficult to implement and work with maybe a DevOps structure in an enterprise, well-established company, or a startup who already has that technical mentality where they are already engaged and they're used to that type of structure? One is already existing stuff in place. Other is we pivot pretty quick, so we understand we need to move fast.
Yeah, I mean, big ships are harder to turn. Smaller ships are easier to turn. It's always harder at an enterprise level to gain consensus. Always, I mean, you never say never. You never say always. It's generally harder at an enterprise level to get more people on board and gain consensus, which is why when I get dropped into a new organization, my first goal is to figure out, okay, how high up can I go in my communications with the folks above me to find out who came up with the idea, and how many layers above that person does buy-in happen. If the CTO came up with that idea, then it's golden. It's I get to use that as my golden path for getting everybody else in line. If it was an engineer that was like, oh, we should do CI/CD, then that's going to be a harder slog to push up the channels. Sometimes I don't want to say all the time. I don't have a percentage for it, but that's in my experience. That's what I've encountered.
DevOps to me is interesting because coming from the operational part of things and then working with developers, it also has to do with your engineering team, right? So things are being thrown over wall to operations. Operations is managing the DevOps portion of it. You've heard of the phrase shift left. I know you have. I know you used it. I know the thing is shift.
Are we going to do a shot every time we say shift left?
What's that? Is
this going to be like a corporate bingo where you have to do a shot every time somebody says shift left, or synergy?
I think we're on the same mindset. Is shift left just an overused term anymore? Or is it an actuality of an action items that you can do for your culture? Or is it was like the new phrase like, bingo, I got it. Now moving on. I got DevOps, bingo, like here. Oh, right, I just need one more. Let's do DevSecOps then, right?
Yeah. The concept of shift left is very valuable. We as humans, we tend to get buried in like what's the new phrase? What's the new thing that I can glom onto that will make it relevant? There's a lot of phrases that we say that eventually become trite, and we start to go, oh yeah, shift left, and we all roll our eyes. But the actual core concept of it is extraordinarily valuable. We want to be in the conversation earlier, so that the right brains are in the right place to make the right decision. And when you're the CTO, you should naturally want to hear from the engineers. When you are the engineer or the architect, you should naturally want to be in that I call it the pre-sales motion, the time when things are being talked about before the SOW is signed. Yep. I work for a VAR, obviously, so that's how my brain set works. I always want to be right there with the account manager when they have that first conversation with the customer. When that customer says, oh, I would like a DevOps, please. And then the salesperson goes, sure, I'll sell you one DevOps. Would you like a small, medium, or large DevOps? Then I can go, whoa, time out. Let's figure out what the heck your DevOps
like every
is.
Sales conversation I've been involved in, I'll sell you whatever you want.
Yes, exactly. So for me, that's what shift left means. And it's hugely important, because if you don't do that, then you get a SOW sign that means nothing. The engineers show up and they're like, what the heck do I do? And then the customer gets pissed off, and what did I pay for? And that just turns into a bad day for everybody, because at the end of the day, my job is to make sure my customer flies straight and that we do right by them. So for me, that phrase is very important. And I try not to actually say those two words. I just say, just get me in as soon as possible. Get me in, coach.
Put me in, coach. I'm ready to go.
That's it.
Oh, I'm envisioning some Ace Ventura stuff. Sorry, some old school.
Laces out.
Yes, that's pretty. Before I get to vTug, I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. How do you go about implementing DevOps? When you get there, when you get into that engagement, the sales guy goes, yeah, I'll sell you DevOps, or you've agreed to DevOps. How do you, and they're like, yeah, I want to do this. What's like some of the first questions you ask, or how do you implement it?
The first questions that we ask is, what does DevOps mean to you? That's literally the first thing. Okay, you want a DevOps. What does that mean to you, and why do you think you need it? and establishing a common dictionary of words. Back to cloud therapy. Establishing a common dictionary of words is paramount to having a successful project. If one person says DevOps is a CI/CD pipeline and then I'm done, but the next person in the same company, like working under the same CTO, says DevOps is our developers, being able to write their own Helm charts, but that's it. Then there has to be a common set of expectations, ideally written down in a policy that everybody can access, and that then I can wave in everybody's face when 3 months down the road, there's like, what the heck is this? That's my customer.
I've implemented what you requested. Here it is. Here's your DevOps.
Here is your one DevOps extra large.
Yeah, I sold it to you for 3 months
with pepperoni.
Yeah. All right. DevSecOps. I gotta throw another term at you. Going with the yes.
Everybody shoot.
Yeah. You know what we should do sometime?
No.
Oh, come on. We should, like beer pong instead of shots. Every time somebody says it, like they say a new phrase that goes with DevOps or DevSecOps. Oh, download shot for you.
I am not. If we do this in person in a bar at reInvent, yes, I'm in.
Oh, wait a second. This is recorded. Oh, man.
What could possibly go wrong?
In Vegas, no less, right? Right.
Well, I mean, we're going to be in Vegas anyway, so we might as well record it.
Oh, okay. Back to DevSecOps. If you go with the DevOps methodology, security is very important part of the process. Why was security added into the acronym now? Why DevSecOps? Shouldn't it be engaged throughout the entire time, or am I reading it wrong or understanding it wrong?
So, because in every other IT shift that we've ever had throughout the entire time that I've been in the industry, security and policy are always the afterthoughts. So we build this cool thing, unless you're in finance. We build this cool thing, and somebody goes, yeah, but how do we secure it? What do you mean admin is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? It's there's always this like, oh, fudge. Let's take a look at this after the fact. So I see this as a natural evolution. Somebody was like, don't forget security. And so they smash sec in the middle of DevSecOps when it honestly should have been there the entire time. That CI/CD pipeline should also be running a container scanner to make sure that, that there isn't anything fishy in there. I forget the name of the cool one right now, but I mean, we at this most recent engagement, we had security folks on the dev team and on the ops team, on the DevOps team. That was literally their entire job to make sure that as that container was going through the CI/CD pipeline, it was being scanned appropriately. And then once it made it into the container registry, when the DevOps people picked it up and ran it through the Helm chart, that it was being scanned appropriately. So tacking the word in there is correct. It should have never not been in there. It should have never not been in a consideration. But it's the exact same thing where by saying it out loud, you are now manifesting it and making it real in the world. So yes,
it is real now that we added it. How about, why not just sec DevOps, right? Make it first.
DevOps sec. So, yeah, I mean, depending upon which conference you're at, that's going to be the case. They're going to rearrange the letters as they go.
Exactly. Let's talk about vTug, because there's also a part of the conversation where that you had some cool opportunities and rented out like the whole Gillette Stadium. And I want to learn about some of these because I find it fascinating. All right, let's jump in. What is vTug?
So the virtualization technology user group was actually the New England branch of it was formed by my good friends Chris and Don Harney. They made it back when VMware first became a thing. I want to say 2004, 2003. And they asked me to come along and help co-lead it I want to say 2015 or 2016. It was a local user group that kind of exploded. It was a quarterly event, and we had attendance ranging from 1,000 to 1,500 people. And so it got so big that we started renting out larger and larger venues to help facilitate it. When we had the summer, so the summer event was called the Summer Slam. The winter event was called the Winter Warmer. The fall event was called the Fall Forward, and the spring event was called the Spring Ahead. And based upon the numbers of people that showed up, we started going into bigger and bigger venues. At the end, the Winter Warmer was always being held at Gillette Stadium. So we would host the Winter Warmer at Gillette. If the Patriots made it into the playoffs, as they mostly did during the last 20 years, we would actually be able to watch them warming up in the side field as we were having our expo event, which was pretty cool. And it was just it was a very tiny version of a reInvent conference. We had an expo hall. We had 3 keynotes running in the main area of the stadium. We had breakout sessions up in the boxes. Those really sweet boxes that all the companies rent out. We use those for breakout sessions for the expo hall presenters, and we made a day out of it. And so we would do that once a quarter, fall, winter, spring, summer. And we did it. They did it from, I want to say 2003 to 2019. I was there for the last 4 or 5 events, because I had gotten my vExpert and I had gotten my AWS Hero. So they're like, hey, can you find us speakers? And I was like, yes. Can I help out with the events? And they're like, sure. And so we had a blast with it. It was super fun. But it ran its course, and we actually stopped doing it was large in-person events without masking. And the very last one that we had was the summer of 2019, right before the pandemic kicked in. So the timing of the ending of it was perfect.
Okay, who would not want to ask you to get some speakers and host and do some of these events and coordinate some of this? I mean, you just your personality, having some fun, the sessions, the keynotes. I mean, yeah, it's like a mini reInvent for it, but it sounds really engaging. And actually, I like that it's smaller and a little more personal, because a lot of events, they do get huge. Everything gets so freaking busy for you to do that you don't get the chance to attend certain things or go towards the keynotes.
Right.
But being able to host in a stadium and actually have everybody come in, the venue's awesome, the content is great. I mean, this is something that was huge for you.
Oh yeah, it was a blast. And I am currently working to reinvigorate it as an AWS community day. So AWS regionally has these things called community days, which are roughly the same size as one of the vTug events. So I'm now working with them with AWS and with my company to start figuring out how I can create an AWS community day once again at Gillette Stadium. So stay tuned, listeners. We're gonna, so if you actually Google AWS Community Day, you'll see the different events that happen across the globe. Margaret has an amazing one in Chicago. John has an amazing one on the West Coast. There's summits, there's community days, there's all kinds of fun things that happen. And I like doing it. It is exhausting. It is a lot of work, but it's so much fun.
I think I'm going to have to look into see. If you need any help, let me know. Also, a little side note that I'm close to Philly, and all right, now you know where I'm going.
I know where you're going with this.
I'm just saying, Gillette, Patriots, Eagles. All right, moving on to the topic a little bit. I might have to put one, when you do yours at Gillette, at the same time, I'll have to do one at the link just to kind of offset that as
have some kind of it'll be a friendly competition. I look forward to it.
Yeah, it's all about the community engagement. Let's talk about vBrownbag, how it started, what it is now, and how did you get involved, and what are you doing now with it?
It started 13 years ago. Did it also start roughly the same time? It did. Yeah. So my friends Cody and Al, they started the vBrownbag a while ago. Cody, we call him the godfather of vBrownbag. he noticed that there was a lack of community efforts around learning how to pass VMware certifications. Just testing and taking and studying for certifications in general. At the time, it was concentrated on VMware because that was the big thing back then. And so vBrownbag was a online podcast. We recorded all the episodes in the series. And one series would be how to study for your VCP. The next series would be how to study for your VCIX. Then it was all study based, and then it kind of spiraled into this. Oh well, this other Git is cool. Let's do a series on Git because Git's fun. And I was studying for my VMware certifications back in the day, and I was using vBrownbag extensively for as a part of my study regimen to go and pass the exams. And I was like, you guys have amazing content. I love you so much. I was at VMworld. I ran into Cody and Al and John, and I said, hey, is there anything I can do to help? I love the product. And they're like, funny you should ask, Chris.
Did he do it like that too? Like
he has an amazing mustache. He actually waxes it and it has the big handlebars and everything. So yes, he 100% does that. And they looped me in. They're like, we come host. And so I started helping out with the hosting duties for the US channel. There's 4 different channels. There's EMEA, APAC, Latin America, and US. And I started helping with the US channel every Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We get on there and we find people in the community. There's no high production values. It's just nerds being nerdy, having fun. I call it nerd show and tell. I love Python and AWS, and I'm a baby developer, so I like getting folks on that whose topics I find interesting. I love talking to technical people about things that excite them. Last week we had one. Actually, she's a worldwide employee. Her name is Leah. She came on and talked about computer vision using Python and OpenCV to scan Legos and categorize and ID them. And it was super fun. And I just had a ton of questions and we just went back and forth. The week before that, it was somebody else. This week it's going to be something. It's always something new and fun and cool. And I love chatting with people. And we did a series on how to pass your Kubernetes administrator. I mean, we're still doing the certification stuff. So we'll do a track of how to study for and pass this exam, whether it be Helm or Kubernetes or Python or VMware. I'm currently doing one for DevOps because I'm studying for DevOps Pro. I'm doing one on how to study for the DevOps Pro on my blog. So it's everybody learning together and learning something that they enjoy and then sharing their knowledge, and folks in the community that want to get some presentation skills under their belt. This is a nice safe space for them to try that first shot before they submit a CFP for reInvent. They can come in and try the presentation out, watch their recording afterwards, see what worked, what didn't work, and hone their craft in that way as well.
Wow, Chris, you're a true hero, not just AWS, but community hero. I think if there's a term out there, no, honestly, all the stuff you do, first of all, vBrownbag started out for VMware, but I love the V in the beginning. It probably signified VMware, but now it's virtual. Now, whatever it is your content, your certification, your stuff you do on Wednesday nights, and you like bringing people on and talk about things that excite them. That's how I envision my podcast. I want to bring on folks who their stories excite them because they're very passionate about it. We don't do it scripted. We do a natural conversation where I'm bringing out whatever you're everything that you just talked about now, I didn't even have an insight into. So this is really cool. I have a question for you. The lady that you had on for scanning the Legos, is it a production thing? Can you share a link to that?
Oh yeah, she has it on her GitHub repo. It is fully available. I try with every vBrownbag that we do to have something that people can take away from and do afterwards. So 9 times out of 10 they'll have like their code on a GitHub repo or the slides available on SlideShare. I always like to have something at the end that the audience can then go and do the thing.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
I'll reach out to you for a link. there's a gentleman, a mentor of mine, Jeff Barr, who loves Legos and does all this stuff. He would find this really super exciting. I just want to share it to him from the community that I just learned today. I will tag her on whatever it is. He will like it. He'll probably reshare it out. Let's talk about AWS.
Jeff, the guy over at AWS?
Jeff Barr, yeah, chief evangelist. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, that guy. He's a huge mentor of mine. And he's a
I didn't know he was a big Lego fan. Nice.
Oh, you got to check out his blog. Actually, his website. Go to jeffbarr.com. I think he refreshed a little bit, but he actually used to categorize all of his Legos, and he would
shut up.
No lie. Check out the link when we're done with this. You got to check. He's huge. He's actually does a lot of engagements at AWS for Legos. He'll actually fly overseas to the factory. He'll fly over to you. You got to check out some. Yes, okay. It's just on. I know we're talking about Legos here. We're all kids, right?
We are. We totally are.
So, Chris, let's talk about AWS Hero. How did you become an AWS Hero? What's the process behind it?
So it is actually a black box. I don't know what the process is. You have to be nominated by an internal AWS employee, and then it's reviewed. You know, I envision everybody in like dark robes around a table with a little flaming thing in the middle, and they throw ballots into there, and whichever one flames the brightest, that's the person that wins. I have no idea how it works, but I was submitted. So I do the vTug, I do the vbrownbag. I have my podcast, I have my blog. So I do stuff. I enjoy doing community stuff, and I think 2 or 3 people nominated me, and so then they reached out to me. I said hello, and they said, we'd like you to become a community hero. I was like, what's involved? And they gave me the list. I was like, I do all this stuff anyway. And they're like, yeah, we know. So I was like, okay, sure. So
it wasn't a heavy lift, right? No hard decision.
It was done. Exactly. And so then Ross Barrich and I became friends. Ross runs the Heroes, a wonderful human being, and now we hang out, and I still do the exact same thing that I've been doing. Only now I have the accolade of AWS Hero to tack on because of it.
I love all the stuff you're doing, not only for the community, all the stuff you've been doing, vBrownbag, the vTug stuff was very interesting. And if you need any help resurrecting any of it, let me know. I have some experience in events and talking and all that, but just throw them in. No.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Don't volunteer, because I will abuse you mercilessly.
That's all right. I love it. I love the community aspect. I love engaging the conversations, the networking folks. So we can talk offline if you're really serious. If you're not, don't worry. I won't take it personally. It is on recording though. So.
Hey, remember when you said, yeah.
Yeah, we defined that, by the way. That's in the document. So I love everything that you're doing. What's next for you, Chris? What are you working on now? I know you're at WWT as an enterprise architect or a cloud therapist. Actually, I think we're changing your title on this. That'll be your new title. But what's next?
My role is actually morphing a little bit. My boss recently said, hey, you know how you're an AWS hero? I was like, yeah. He's like, how do you become a WWT hero? I was like, well, give me a budget and give me free reign to do what I want to with the marketing team and the events team, and I can make some magic happen. And he was like, approved.
Can I have your boss? Oh my God! You didn't even give me an unlimited budget.
Oh, I didn't say unlimited. I gave him a number.
You said give me a budget. That's right. Correction. Sorry, we hung that up.
Yeah. And so I am now working on. So Worldwide is the largest company that you've never heard of. They're an $8 billion VAR that is huge in a lot of different spaces. And my team, the AWS team here, is top tier. I mean, these guys are the Navy SEALs of AWS. It is amazing the stuff that they do, and they're very undersung. So I would like to be a cheerleader for them. They're an amazing group of human beings, and I love that the work that they're doing, and they're doing work at Fortune 50s that is just staggeringly awesome. So I would like to become a dev advocate for Worldwide, and kind of like, I made myself this little DevRel role, And so now I'm going to get out and start extolling not in like some creepy commercially way, but just like, you know, get my folks out there speaking at events, talking about cool things, not as a commercial, but like putting them at user groups and getting some branding out there, you know, the things that a dev advocate would do. So that's kind of what's next. Hope it works. We'll see how it goes.
It will work. I've noticed in the last couple of months the trend to developer advocates, DevRels for companies. The job market out there is just growing. They see the value in it. They see the community engagement. WWT, I heard of them when I worked at an MSP. That was the only time I heard of them. I didn't know of them any other time. Didn't realize how big they are. Oh my God. Yeah. I didn't even, it was like, oh, WWT, that's great. That's not, I was like, who are they? They're like, Worldwide Technology. I was like, okay. And then this person's like, yeah. And a lot of it's like West Coast that you hear more about it in certain areas. I was in Orange County at the time, but it's amazing how big they are, but how unknown they are.
Correct. And that is something that I'm going to try to fix.
All right. Well, I look forward to it. You'll also be at reInvent, because we already planned a nice little bar episode.
Absolutely.
And a TikTok. And a TikTok.
Oh no.
You said never say never, but then at the same time you said never in that, so it's not really a never. But I think after a couple drinks I can get you.
So we've committed to Vegas plus shots plus TikTok. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. You better. Yeah. On the recording, no lie. We're good. Don't worry. We're good. We're gonna have a lot of fun, and it'll go viral.
I'm so screwed.
You're not the only one, but either way, it's going to be a blast. Chris, thank you so much for joining me. This was a pleasure, man.
I thoroughly enjoyed this, John. Thanks for having me on. This was super fun.
Yes, everybody. Chris Williams, cloud therapist at Worldwide Technology. I'm your host, John Myer. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and notify, because guess what, folks? As always, we're out of here.